In recent years, the summer season has felt brutally hot across most of America, and this year was no exception. And though it made outdoor activities more draining, few populations felt the impact of this temperature more than the people laboring outdoors or in extreme heat environments without air conditioning. Every year, dozens of workers, usually in low-paying jobs, die from heat stress, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. As of today, there are no federal mandates protecting these workers. Pamela Woloski is president of the board of directors of the American Society of Safety Professionals. She says people working in construction, manufacturing, and agriculture are more at risk for heat exposure. The extreme conditions in these hot environments create the potential for a variety of heat-related illnesses. Some of them are minor, like cramps or a rash, but others are far more serious.
A person starts off with just maybe some fatigue or headaches and progresses more and more to disorientation and perhaps even fainting at the later stages. Heat exhaustion is progressive. If you don't stop and care for the symptoms, it will continue to get worse. And then the last is the worst, which is heat stroke, which is a life-threatening medical condition that requires immediate medical attention if the person is going to survive.
Heat stroke is like any other stroke where the brain has been deprived of oxygen.
And in this case, it's because the systems in our body that regulate our internal core temperature are not functioning properly due to exposure to heat. And a person who does not get medical attention either could die or could end up with some debilitating after effects like partial paralysis or difficulty speaking or permanent kinds of seizures.
Despite the dozens of annual deaths, there are no federal regulations mandating heat-related protections for workers. However, the Occupational Safety and Hazard Administration, or OSHA, has proposed regulations that are currently in draft status.
We don't know when or if that rule will be approved and published so that employers will have to comply. But we know that several other states like California, who are regulated under their own state programs, do have regulations dealing with heat and heat stress. And the American Society of Safety Professionals recently published its own voluntary standard on heat stress, which provides guidance to employers. The standard is intended to address construction and demolition operations. However, the recommendations and the guidelines that are in that particular standard are really applicable and adoptable to just about any kind of industry where workers are outdoors.
Woloski says the ASSP standard can also be adopted to indoor workers. This could include manufacturing environments such as steel mills or any facilities with extreme heat conditions. So far, only 7 states manage their own heat-related safety standards. Those states include California, Colorado, Maryland, Minnesota, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. However, the scope of these regulations varies state to state. For example, Washington's standard only covers outdoor workers, and Minnesota's standard protects only indoor workers. Caitlin Parody is the Development and Strategic Programs Liaison at the National Council for Occupational Safety and Health in Phoenix. The organization's national campaign called Fired Up Workers for Heat Justice unites workers across the country to push for access to water, shade, rest, and emergency communications. They also advocate for heat training and acclimatization periods.
These are very, very basic, low-cost interventions, and there are great model standards out there, whether you're talking about what's been proposed, what's been passed, at various state levels, right? But until it's enforceable, until it's a requirement, we know that it's not really real for most workers on the ground.
Sadly, Parody says the vast majority of employers don't follow best practice recommendations when it comes to heat safety.
And so that's really why we know that we need a very strong, very clear, enforceable standard, and that should happen at the federal level. We need there's something like 69 million workers across the US who are, again, indoor and outdoor workers, because indoor workers do face extreme heat hazards as well. But yeah, 69 million workers across the US at risk. And what the current patchwork approach it leaves too many people behind.
In addition to frequent breaks for water, shade, and rest, both the ASSP standard and the Fired Up campaign recommend the buddy system. On a June day in 2021, 38-year-old Sebastian Francisco Perez was digging an irrigation ditch under the blazing hot sun at a plant nursery in Oregon. The huge field of baby evergreen trees offered no shade. When the temperature spiked at 106 degrees, Perez collapsed. No one noticed he was missing until hours later. By then, it was too late. Paramedics could not revive him.
The buddy system is critical. And what we see when you look at the worker heat deaths is that often when people are dying, they're dying because they're working alone, right? And so there's no one there to notice that someone's starting to be disoriented, feel confused, right? No one there to call 911 if someone collapses. So the buddy system is really crucial, and it's absolutely feasible.
California implemented this policy in 2005, and Perez's death prompted Oregon to follow suit in 2022. Currently, many low-wage employees see no improvements when they complain to management about unsafe working conditions. That is, if they even feel safe bringing it up in the first place.
Unfortunately, particularly for low-wage workers who are working in the most exploitative industries, retaliation is really more the norm than the exception. I've heard workers here in the day labor community talk about working in roofing jobs where there's technically water available, but you have to climb off the roof to get it, and you're really discouraged, from climbing off the roof, right? So I think certainly there's high road employers out there, and those are the folks who are going to take recommendations and run with them and do them well. But the folks who are the most at risk, who are in the lowest wage jobs, working for the most unscrupulous employers, they're really going to be retaliated against if they speak up. And certainly those are the folks who are at the highest risk of dying.
In another instance, a local Phoenix airport didn't have a functional cooling station for workers on the tarmac where temperatures climbed to over 118 degrees. Because his complaints to management fell on deaf ears, a worker complained to the city council instead. His employers subsequently threatened him with termination from his job. Coincidence? Parody doesn't think so. And yet, she has hope for the future.
You can have these small groups of workers who are getting active and getting organized and leading campaigns and end up, really having a big impact on many, many, many workers. So under Fired Up right now, for example, there's, even without a federal standard, there's state and local campaigns that have the potential to win these protections for 10 million workers. And that's really, those campaigns have come about from people who have everything to lose by speaking up, but do it anyways, right? Because they know that there's absolutely no reason that their employers can't provide them with these really basic life-saving protections like water, shade, and rest.
You can find more information about Pamela Waloski, Caitlin Parody, and all of our guests on our website, radiohealthjournal.org. Our writer and co-producers this week are Polly Hansen and Amira Zaviri. Our lead producer is Kristen Farah. Our production manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Greg Johnson.